Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species, in a very special segment with Alan Hesse, live from Quito, Ecuador. Alan and I have been together for a bunch of years, 3, 4 years, something like that. And I can't for the life of me remember how we got together. But Alan is a quintessential author, illustrator, environmentalist, a conservation biologist, and he is the author and creator of the Captain Polo series to educate children, which I'm holding this up, and we're going to talk about that. That's why we're here. Another edition. I'm a big fan of Captain Polo. I love this. Especially this edition. And then one of the other projects Alan did was um, with Charles Darwin, and we were just talking about it. I learned so much about Charles Darwin, which I never knew from this. So we're going to talk about Captain Polo is great. Alan's life is kind of remarkable. China's his technical spirits and his creativity, creating all of this to educate children because we got problems. Alan and I also, along the way, a couple of years ago, we were the founders of a group, which was a really interesting group, and it flourished for a while, called Climate Optimists, Everything Not Fine. And we had people literally all over the world, from Quito, Ecuador, to Kevin was in Paris, France, and did some stuff in Borneo and uh, um, London. I mean, Scotland, Neil in Scotland. I mean, it was a vibrant group, and we had a lot of Gen Zs that participated in this, students. As all things, it's there, but it's kind of sleeping. But that's the energy and the personality of Alan, who's now doing some different things along with Captain Polo. So by the way, it truly has been for me transformative having known you and Captain Polo.
Thank you.
So really, and we're on such the same level because it's our caring about our home, our very special home. So um, that's my intro to Alan Hesse and Captain Polo. So um, let's just jump into this. I understand that you are back full time in a job in conservation, and that this brings a whole new, different set of skills for you to use these skills to add to your work as an illustrator and an author and a climate change educator. So, if whatever you can say briefly about this new direction.
Sure. Thanks, Calvin. Yeah. Well, I mean, I originally am a conservationist from the beginning, actually. The climate work is more of a recent endeavor, although that's already been 6 or 7 years now. But I started off in conservation, as you know, and I've come back into it now. I'm working with a global organization as a senior specialist for behavior change. And behavior change is becoming a new kind of tool, a new tool for many areas of action around the world. Started off with public healthcare way back in the 70s with social marketing kind of approaches, and that's now becoming one of the tools in the conservationist toolbox. And the reason for that is because when you think about it, just like with climate change, it all boils down to human behavior. The planet and its natural ecosystems and wildlife are not in a good place right now. We're talking about a mass extinction across the globe, which is heavily tied in with climate change, of course, as an exacerbating factor. And it all boils down to human behavior. And so part of that behavior is illegal wildlife trade. So yeah, I work for an organization called Traffic International, and I'm a senior behavior change specialist there. And it's a global role, which is really exciting. And it's looking at behavior change at all levels, not only at the communities, the communities at source where wildlife is sourced, but also along the supply chain. So that means airports, it means law enforcers, it means businesses like airlines, carriers, shipping companies, and all the way down to the end consumers in distant countries. And trade of animals, just like all other kinds of crime, is global. So it goes in all directions.
Wow.
And it's also, it's also converged. So you have wildlife crime is mixed up with drug crime, with trafficking of arms, and all kinds of horrible things. So having the opportunity to bring behavior change into that is really exciting, and so that's kind of taking up my time these days. Yeah, I have to be focused on that.
So does this mean it's the end of Captain Polo? I know you're just saying your job takes a lot of energy from you.
It's not the end. No, no, no.
Okay. Okay.
No, no, no. As I like to say, Captain Polo ain't going nowhere. Or rather, he's going places, actually. Captain Polo is my thing. It's my brand. So it's very dear to my heart. And the Captain Polo Academy, just to remind your listeners, isn't just the comic books. It's actually a brand. It's an initiative, which is, global as well. I have projects, different parts of the globe. And it's all about climate education. And you can do that with comic books, but you can also do it with board games. You can do it with projects. There's my signature food project that I told you about once, with schools. And there's all kinds of momentum, actually, that's been built up over the years now. And, and so Captain Polo is certainly going places, and it's very exciting. And so yeah, there's all kinds of stuff happening with that.
Well, for me, because I'm a fan of Captain Polo, it's good to know that he's getting stronger. Are there any updates, things that are coming down new?
Yeah. Well, let me see. Polo Book 5 is in its final phases of preparation now. I'm in the coloring phase. I'm on page 12 of 48 in coloring. But coloring is always the last step, the process.
I have to show.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. And coloring is a big deal for me. It's not something I can farm out. It's not something I can hire someone else to do, because it's a big part of the art, and it's a big part of my style. So it's important, and it's actually the step that takes the longest, is the coloring. So I'm in the throes of that right now for Captain Polo Book 5, which is called Polo in Brazil. And yeah, it's a book which is dedicated to the country of Brazil. And there are reasons for that, which can be explored in a different time. But that's a strong project that's happening now. In parallel, there's some really cool stuff that I've done in partnership with a foundation in Galapagos, in the Galapagos Islands, which is Ecuadorian territory. And the Galapagos has instituted this year, for the very first time at provincial level, an adapted curriculum. Because contrary to what many people may think, it is not a bunch of uninhabited islands. 99% of the Galapagos archipelago is protected area. It's a national park, and it's what the tourists go to see, from the cruise boats. But there is a 1% of it which is inhabited and has a lot of challenges, as you might expect, right? And so those populations have children, and there are schools in Galapagos. And so there is now a contextualized curriculum which Ecuador is piloting in that province. And one of the elements of that curriculum is climate change, which is great news. So I got my foot in the door with my good friend Noemi, who runs a project called Galapagos Infinito. And the books have been, she got funding, and they've been printed locally and in Spanish. I translated them to Spanish. So all three first Captain Polo books are at this time being distributed. 200 of each book is being distributed to the schools in Galapagos to support the teachers in the teaching of climate change. And the Captain Polo Academy was also involved with other partners in training, helping to train the teachers on climate change teaching. So that's all happening right now, and that's super exciting. Also in the classrooms in Galapagos is going to be rolled out the board game, Captain Polo's World Tour, which is best described as Snakes and Ladders meets Trivial Pursuit with a climate theme, you know? So you actually learn about climate change while you play the game. And the teachers are going to be using that game as well, translated to Spanish as well. That's all in Galapagos. In parallel, in Peru and Colombia, I'm working with cacao producers. So
Which
the origin of chocolate.
and
There you go.
I
There you
read
go.
it. I read it, and yesterday
Yeah,
it had nothing to do with you. We went to
yeah,
Trader Joe's, a local store,
yeah.
and I saw the cacao powder, which is marvelously, wondrously healthy because
It
it
is.
contains all kinds of flavonoids.
It
So when
does
you're making a
indeed.
cup of coffee, you stick a little teaspoonful of this. But this
Yeah,
stuff is in danger, isn't it?
it is. It is in danger. It is in danger because of global warming. You know, it's altering the weather patterns locally in cacao producing countries. And of course, Ecuador, Colombia, and Peru are among the kind of like the nexus of those three countries in the middle range Andes. Lower range Andes is kind of, well, it's one of the regions celebrated for its best chocolate. You know, when I go abroad, I live in Ecuador. So when I travel to like Europe or somewhere, the thing I take with me is chocolate, Ecuadorian chocolate. And it's like a delicacy. So cacao is endangered. And what's interesting is that this project run by an organization called Bioversity, not biodiversity, but Bioversity, with the Center for Tropical Agriculture, the International Center for Tropical Agriculture, in a partnership, they received kind of like a request from the cacao farmers in Peru, in northern Peru, saying we want to understand what to do about global warming for our crops, our livelihoods. And so I was part of that effort in teaching them and training them, you know, bringing awareness about what climate change means for them as cacao producers in that part of the world. And one thing led to another. And before you know it, Captain Polo is now in a storybook that is targeting the kids of these communities. He's also in these little WhatsApp videos targeting the adult producers themselves, the farmers. Little 1 to 2 minute videos with animations of Captain Polo with practical advice on what to do about specific aspects of global warming on cacao. So,
Wow.
for example, disease and fungus and crop failure because
Wow.
of high temperatures or because of flooding or because of drought. In each case, Captain Polo, with his little friend, little bird that is endemic to that part of Peru, in cartoon kind of animation format, explain in 2 minutes what the farmer has to do, A, B, C, you know? So that's the kind of thing I mean when I say that there's ongoing momentum and resources way beyond the books, you know? And that project is going to be soon rolled out to Colombia and also Ecuador. So, you know, and one thing leads to another, and there are other things that the Captain Polo Academy has been up to this year, but I can't list them all. But it's just to give you a taste of kind of like the
Right.
momentum.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know I read and I've seen that Captain Polo's has been making the Academy's been making a large donation of
Oh yes,
polo books.
yes. The original 3 books used to be when they were first published as a single volume under a different title called The Adventures of Polo the Bear. And for reasons I won't explain, that has changed to Captain Polo. But at the time, those 3 books were a single edition, a chunky 88-page volume. Those books, I have 618 of them left, and they're no longer in print because I've changed the name.
Okay.
So I decided to donate them. And as you know, Calvin, you were part of the scrambling effort to find out who could take them. And I'm very, very pleased to say that an organization in England called the South Yorkshire, the Climate Education South Yorkshire, they run climate conferences and grassroots climate education in South Yorkshire, which is you know, a region of England. And they have taken the 618 books on my
That's
behalf.
great.
Yeah, and they're going to drip feed them in donations to schools and libraries throughout northern England. And but you know, they're open to other takers asking for a box or, you know, any number of books that they want as well, as long as they cover the postage costs. So it's like wonderful because it's a big team effort. No one's making any money from this. You know, the folks in South Yorkshire are doing it voluntarily because they understand the mission of Captain Polo, you know, and it aligns with their mission. And so these books are going to end up in schools and libraries, yeah, as a donation. So I'm very pleased about that.
Great. That's great. This is an abbreviated. You and I could talk for hours.
Yes, we
easily.
could.
But and I want to remind everybody that people can find and discover you and your work at ALLANHESSE.com, and that'll be in all my promotional stuff, spreading the word, ALLANHESSE.com. By the way, literally 5 minutes before we went on air, something popped up in my news feed, and I read about half the article on the fires in the Amazon.
Oh, it's terrible.
Do you get smoke? Do you get smoke stuff?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
My goodness.
Yeah, I'm in the Andes, eh? I'm in the Andes. I'm 8 hours drive from the Amazon basin, and I'm looking at the smoke right now. And this whole week, we've had a forest fire like a couple of miles away.
Wow.
And we haven't had any rain for about 3 months now.
Are you kidding?
Ecuador now is living, and not only Ecuador, but the region is living the worst drought in 62 years.
Wow.
You know, and every year it's hottest on record. And it's the same in Europe, and it's the same in the US. Right? I don't have to tell you guys about the California fires.
Yep. And
It's
the Canadian
linked.
fires, we get smoke from the Canadian.
Oh, it's all linked.
Yep.
So going back to what you said at the beginning, though, Calvin, climate optimism, we can't afford gloom and gloom, but everything is not fine. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so, you know, I hope that this podcast, this wonderful podcast, Calvin, We the Species, aptly named, you know, I hope that the listeners take some messages and spread the word, you know.
I hope so too.
It all begins with communication.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. That's been our mission. You know, we've been hanging out for years now. It's great stuff. This has been great. Again, ALLANHESSE.com. I can't thank you enough for your time.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough, Calvin.
For
always
Captain
a pleasure.
Polo, and you and I, this is to be continued.
Yes.
To be continued, and they've been being continued for several years. So thank you, Allan.
Yeah, thank you, Calvin. All the best with the show.
All right.
Bye.